It's 2.5, 2.5.
Alireza Firouzja is flying away like a falcon in this matchup against Arjun Erigaisi. Needs only a win in the next one. 3 games remain. For Arjun, the strat has to be clear, right? He's got 2 whites. One coming up right now.
Yep.
He has to win this one. There's no other way. This is a make or break for him. A draw does not suffice because he'll have a black after that. His plan, get a win right now, try to draw the next one, and then strike again. If this does not go Arjun's way, I think a draw in this one is as good as a loss for him.
Yep. Must-win scenario, you would think, at least, for Arjun Erigaisi. And it's Firouzja who switches things up with a Petrov defense, a Russian defense. And it's something that we've seen multiple times throughout this tournament here in Riyadh. It's a quick trade, it's symmetrical pawns, and at least a much better start to this game for Firouzja than his previous black. Arjun needs to try something a bit special to imbalance things.
And that's because how badly it went in game 2, right? For Alireza Firouzja when he developed the other knight. And Arjun got exactly what he wanted out of the opening with that knight jumping forward. So Alireza already switching it up. We've seen this happen. Every time a player is up in a match, they choose the most solid line known to man against e4, which is the Petrov right now. And you see why. Look at the symmetry in the position. The pawn formation, the pieces coming off the board. There's only one open line, the e-file. You can expect a bunch of trades on that in the near future.
Now, on the one hand, being able to be so solid definitely helps Arjun's state of mind. It's relatively clear what the plans are. There's almost no chance he's going to go massively down on the clock. On the other, in a must-win situation, this is as good as Armageddon as far as we're concerned. A draw in this match, and we basically think Firouzja will be able to walk it. So Arjun needs to find a way to win here. So he needs imbalances. He needs ways to make things more complicated. And I'm looking at the pawn structures here. I'm not really seeing much.
They don't exist according to me. I mean, in this opening, with this formation of pawns, the one line that's open, trades that are going to happen, I can't imagine Arjun trying to create something, but you know, we're Arjun. That's what we'll be talking about. H4 on the board.
Let's go.
Yeah, and I'll just talk a bit about the kind of history and reputation of this opening variation, this specific branch, at least, of the Petrov defense. It kind of came into fashion, kind of played by a bunch of Chinese players, including world champions, and it was known to be rock solid. The first few years of this variation, all the games ended up as a draw because the symmetry, the open file, the e-file, leading to all the trades. Then White was finding these ideas, parking the bishop in the center like this, trying to provoke a black pawn to f6, weakening the position. The white knights are poised to jump forward. There is a lot of attacking poison. For a couple of years, it was regarded as very nice for White, these types of positions. Not necessarily must-win situations, but you were playing risk-free, on the front foot, and it's only in the last year or two where black players have found antidotes. I think this move is known. He wants to attack a pawn. He wants to potentially remove that white bishop from the center. And Alireza, if he defends well, should be safe. But it is a big if. The white h-pawn marching forward. All of White's pieces much more active than their counterparts, so there's a little bit of hope.
Okay, so some very interesting counter-attacking chances on the board now. Both sides with knights attacking the dark squared bishops, but ultimately, let's not forget, the more we're able to navigate these complexities, the more we're getting rather quick exchanges of pieces off the board, and therefore reasonably quick resolutions to the game, which is not what Arjun Erigaisi wants right now.
But like you said, there is a small pull, right? We again see a lot of trades, the minors that have just come off, but the white rook just slightly active, more active than its counterpart. The other rook ready to come into the game as well. The white queen not only eyeing the king side, that 8-7 pawn, but can swoop over to any of the squares on the left flank and start putting just some questions, small questions to those pawns. I still think this is quite close to Alireza solving all these problems, but perhaps just the next couple of moves, he needs to be a little careful.
And he's known as a bit of a madman when he wants to be, Arjun Erigaisi. Just the fact that this is a bit of a slower position. Yes, it's small advantage White, according to our eval bar. I think it's the style of the advantage, the style of what needs to be done that might beg a few questions here. Alireza isn't entirely comfortable himself. There we see on the camera, a bit of a shake of the head. He doesn't like these positions where it's just about defense. If you defend well, you draw. He likes having that third result in play, that hope for a counterattack. So it's kind of neither side playing their brand of chess, who will come out on top if they're both slightly uncomfortable. Very interesting to see the gear change from Arjun, as opposed to his previous White game, where it was just immediate fire from move one.
gear changes have been a theme of the Esports World Cup, right? And more than once now on this very stream, we've seen games drawn in one positions, lost from one positions, in the name of players who weren't able to recognize the need to shift gears partway through a game. So still a lot of twists and turns to come here, and that rook on e5, the h4 pawn preventing the knight coming into g5 in the future, the pressure on the e5 square, it's looking like there's a couple of questions to answer, nothing super concrete yet, because at the end of the day, f7 just comfortably defends, but we're asking all the right questions.
Absolutely. I think he's going to keep the game going. And, you know, till there are majors on the board, till that H-pawn has a future of moving up the board, Arjun will try this out. I think adapting to the changing nature of the position is one of the hardest skills in chess. You know, what we call as shifting gears depending on what's on the board. Sometimes you're winning, that advantage is lost, and you need to know that you need to pull the brakes. But you overpush, you end up losing. So understanding those moments is something that the world's best players, like the two that we've got in front of us, are just so good at. And it's not an easy skill. We've seen how it plays, especially in a 10-0, where, again, the mind shift is that much harder because you don't have enough time on the clock.
For sure, and that's actually what's making me think now, Tanya. I'm wondering, with so much time being spent by Alireza Firouzja and still looking visibly discontent at his screen, pulls out f6, rook e3 reply to almost instantaneously. If I'm Arjun Erigaisi now, I'm thinking, oh, I wish we had more than one pair of minors on the board because suddenly I could really use a 3-minute advantage going into the endgame.
And if Alireza Firouzja now goes on to lose this game, he's going to be facing the wrath of Ben Feingold in the studio, who says never play f6. Very weakening. And as you say, John, if there were an extra pair of minor pieces, white would have a huge attack against the black king. But for now, the black pawn on f6 controls the white knight. He needs to kind of accelerate the challenge now to the e-file. I'm expecting one of the black rooks to step across to e8, the black queen to move out the way. He's still holding everything together for now. It's still very unpleasant for Firouzja, but it feels like it's psychological more than anything. Position is fine, just about, but the clock, just, this is living life on the edge. 4-minute deficit, and the game is just beginning.
Yeah, it's really surprising. You know, when you make a committal move like f6 and your opponent makes the most natural move, which is retreating the rook, you need to have a response ready. You can't think once for that much time and then tank again on the very next move. To such a natural response with a big threat. The other rook comes to e1 and it's tough. Look at that. That's panic on Alireza.
Other rook moving across to e1 here. And we see Alireza's partner in the audience looking on.
He's got a sidestep with the queen. There's a big threat on the board. Rook takes knight. He needs to decide, but why is he taking so long for every single move?
That was almost a forced move there, given an exclamation mark in the end, but every move taking him longer than it should do. That was almost 20 seconds from Alireza. I think the main problem here is that he doesn't feel he's going to be able to amply challenge the e-file. If he gets one more move, the black knight is going to retreat to the c7 square and get some rooks off the board, but this might be the small window of opportunity here for Arjun Erigaisi to start creating some play against the black king. I'm expecting the white h-pawn to step forward. The white knight has a nice path into the f5 square. Still a lot to be done in order to create an attack for white, but the outline is there.
I have the question, though. The h-pawn can potentially progress. That gives the knight the path, like you say. But if black plays the knight to c7, there's a worry of an instant trade of all the majors. Yes, you had that pawn on h5. Yes, you've got those things going for you. But will the pieces simply get swapped off the board too quickly for you to make anything of it?
That's going to be the big question, right? Will black be in time? Well, you can get one rook off the board, but more importantly, will you be able to get the other rook? Or can Arjun Erigaisi use this tiny window of opportunity to either create threats on the right flank, you know, those knight jumps, or even use his queen to start attacking the pawns on the left flank as well. So there are ideas all across. Arjun's got time to figure this out. And this is the recognition of a critical moment. He realizes Alireza has a neutralizing plan. It's a move that's coming up next. You know, knight to c7.
Yeah.
He knows that this is the moment, that he has to find a counter to it. If he allows it without problems, Alireza will find a pathway to that much-needed draw.
Alireza Firouzja reminds me a bit in his mannerisms of Novak Djokovic. Sometimes there's a shake of the head, he looks like he's suffering, he's down at 30 seconds, then he goes on to win. Just like Djokovic, just holding his thighs, you know, acting tired, suddenly goes on to win. So I think the shakes of the head are deceptive slightly. He doesn't believe his position is too bad necessarily. There we go, dropping his knight back to initiate the trade of rooks. But it is this race, whether white can get to the black camp, get the white queen in, get the white knight in before all the rooks disappear, or it might just fizzle out towards a draw.
It's one of those champions mentality things. I think we see it with Magnus as well, and with Hikaru a lot of the time. When you see a lot of frustration and you go, well, hang on a second, why are you frustrated? They're frustrated because it's not perfect. It's like, I'm winning, but I didn't win in the way I wanted to. And that sort of mentality, honestly, it goes so far in the world of competitive sport. And this is maybe another example of it right here with Alireza Firouzja. So the other rook coming out now, and again, pieces starting to get traded off. What can we generate here on the part of Arjun Erigaisi?
Well, you know, if you've got your knight to h4, you better get it to f5. That has to be the plan in this position. And he's just calculating what happens, because Alireza has done the defensive task, right? Ready to swap off the next pair of rooks. And he's figuring out, after rook takes rook, once the knight jumps in, where will the queen move? But he's got to do it quick, because you have to play on Alireza's clock as well. Even if the position's equal, he's going to continue the game.
Yes, I think at one point Arjun Erigaisi in this game had a 4-minute advantage. I don't recall another time in the entirety of the Esports World Cup a player has had a 4-minute advantage. So that has more than half of that has gone now. So it's interesting to see what he's going to do to try and capitalize on it. So far, it's it did look promising, but I'm not sure this is enough.
Yeah, that's the big question. It looks very, very nice for white. At least minimal risk here. White knight more active, white queen more active. Watch out, big threat. The white knight wants to jump out the way with a check because the black queen is undefended on this diagonal. But yeah, the big question is whether black can set up the defenses in a way that there's no way through. The black knight likely to soon join the action, join the defense. The black king, black queen can both move right now. These positions are slightly unpleasant. They're not much fun for black, but ultimately they should be holdable. And as you said, Firouzja knows this isn't perfect. This is not how he wanted to make a draw. This is not how he wanted to survive this game, but he just needs to dig deep.
And I would imagine the problem is the creation of a second weakness or some sort of distraction. The queen and knight, the most deadly combination in chess, right? But with the pawn structures completely symmetrical and no other pieces on the board, you can't use any other pieces to create a second weakness or a distraction or a deflection. So there's very little either player can do in this case that can't immediately be parried.
The ammunition is little for Arjun, but it's still there, right? Like you said, the attacking possibilities on a tender G7 spot. Right now, Firouzja is using every single piece to defend. He brings the king to the center of the board, sidelining any of those checking ideas. You can still go for it because it's pretty fancy. You could give a check on h6. A knight cannot be captured because the queen is hanging. But what black intends is simply to slide the king over and want to offer those trades and make sure that the king is at the center of the board when the endgame happens. So a very tricky, resourceful way to fight against that idea.
Yeah, king centralized. King is a great piece in the endgame, and although the queens are on the board, the black king relatively safe for now. Next move, given just one more turn, the black knight will sit pretty on e6. Alireza still feels a bit restless. He's still kind of jittery up and down in his chair, but he's getting closer to the desired goal of holding this position, getting close on the clock as well. One move threat, the white queen steps forward, hitting a pawn, and defended. Here we go. Arjun's found a new angle to try and get in. The white queen on the dark squares might be sneaking behind enemy lines a bit later, but there we see Firouzja still with a shake of the head. This is puzzling. I think it's just not his style of position. That's what's making him feel most uncomfortable right now.
It's a maneuvering game for Arjun, but what has happened in return is that he sort of relinquished control of the E-line, right? Where now Alireza is looking for activity, looking for those infiltration squares, and it's amusing, actually, how both players are using the king to defend those key squares on that file. King F1, none of that queen coming in right now for Alireza. Is he going to offer a queen trade? He pushes the knight first. The knight h6 check. It can be given, but the knight will be stuck on that square.
It retreats instead, and now the big question is, can the white queen get in? It's looking in two different directions. The white queen wants to sneak in towards h6, towards b8, two different diagonals, both dark square centric there. But Alireza can shut the door on at least one of them. doesn't feel like it should be enough. The bar says level, dead, equal, but Alireza continues to shake his head, continues to freeze.
He just doesn't like his position for a long time now. He's on this defense, you know, the clock's ticking low, and he knows that the questions lie ahead, and that's a big decision. You go up a pawn, but look at that right side of the board. All the pawns disconnected, white queen about to swoop in, attack both those pawns at the same time. This is a big decision with a minute and a half on the clock, and Arjun keeps surprising. He's not going for the pawns on the right side. The other flank swoops in with the queen, about to pick up a7.
Queen comes in, and the knight closes the door. So a7 is the pawn that's been offered right now, and we've got a little bit of counterplay on the other side of the board with h4 now being pushed by black. It was white to begin with, and now Alireza Firouzja tries to come up Arjun Erigaisi with these complications.
Firouzja just has to clarify things. It's out of necessity. He needs a perpetual check here. 1 minute plus. We've seen it do it before. But forcing the issue, ending this game within that amount of time when the opponent has 3 minutes, super difficult. So that's why he tried to dive in with his queen. Ultimately, no more checks. But the black h-pawn is an easy one to push, the only pass pawn in the position. This is the happiest he's going to have been in the last 15 minutes, Alireza. But is it enough to hold the draw 3 versus 1?
So time situation, 1 minute 15 now, plays just over 3 minutes. He's managed to narrow the time gap from that massive 4-minute deficit he had before, but still, when it comes to an endgame, Arjun Erigaisi has just under triple the time.
This is looking a lot easier now for Firouzja than it ever has in this game. You know, he has a direct path. He wants to keep pushing that h-pawn. Look at how beautifully his queen and knight are placed, making sure the activity of the white knight isn't there anymore because the king is pinned to it. So that just makes it so much more difficult. White queen unable to give a single check on the board. Every square protected. Just for black, you keep pushing pawns, you bring the knight forward when needed, the queen can now slide in, give a check from h3. It's like the worst is behind Alireza.
At least on the board, but on the clock, maybe that isn't the case. Again, a shake of the head. I mean, he should be jumping in with the black queen, giving a check. He should be leaping forward with the black knight. Maybe offer a trade. Just clear the board. Get a perpetual check. Push your pawn. It feels like he's not in the flow. And that's typical in chess, in a lot of sports. The closer you get to the finishing line, the more you tense up, the more nervous you become. That is a great move, the black knight, threatening some nasty stuff in conjunction with its queen. I don't think white has time to go pawn hunting. The white queen retreats. This is Arjun curling up into a ball, just trying to prolong the game to try and win on the clock.
2 minutes and 5 seconds, plays 55. Alireza Firouzja under a minute now and under immense pressure to try and find a draw somewhere, somehow. Arjun Erigaisi placing a lot of pressure on the clock, but this is where Alireza shines the most.
And that h-pawn in a knight-pawn ending, that's going to do the talking. But the clock, 45 seconds. Can Alireza do Alireza things in this? Will he be able to hold this game, or will Arjun flag him?
Done the hard work, Alireza. He's simplified this equation. Only knights, only pawns. If he removes the 5 white pawns from the board, this game is going to be a draw. I'm expecting trades, some desperate lunges towards the opponent's pawns. The black king can activate itself soon. There we go. He advances. 38 seconds. Is it enough? We've asked that question so many times before. Normally, the answer is yes when it comes to Firouzja.
One of the few players who would answer that with a yes. King g5 on the board. Now it's less than a minute advantage to Arjun Erigaisi. The position absolutely level. The clock, his only friend, his only best friend in the position. a5, he's trying to create some chances on the other side. c5 will come next. The white knight moving forward. And look at that, Alireza, he's panicking.
I haven't seen him this indecisive in ages, Alireza. 27 seconds now, that time drifting away. And here, Arjun, his hand is forced. He needs to push those white pawns. He needs to hope and pray that one of them promotes to a queen. He can bypass that black knight somehow, but he's reluctant to decide. He's at the 1 minute mark soon. And here we go, pawn trades. Who does that help? Alireza, is he going to be able to clinch the draw? Those 2 white pawns are going to tie down black's knight, but the knight relocates to try and grab on a5.
And the white knight moves back, trying to create a passer on the board, but that allows the black king to come back into the game. Is Arjun going to trade one more set of pawns to get that passer going, but will that be too few? And he does go for this idea, the black knight, the perfect defender.
It's getting so close now. The pawns are disappearing from this board. Alireza so systematically removing them. The white king deflected. Now the white pawn is about to disappear. 18 seconds, more than enough to hold the draw here. We're going to see the game end, and Alireza saves himself.
41 seconds, plays 17 at the end, but Alireza Firouzja able to secure the draw, and the match goes on. With that, he is now 3-1 up, and there is no margin for error left for Arjun Erigaisi. To take this match to Armageddon, he has to win every game.